bless you.
Thank you.
right, good morning, everyone. Good morning. All right. My name is Clay Thompson, and this is my coworker, Vivek, and I'm here to talk to you today about air quality monitors. Doing a little bit of a workshop on just breaking down some of the sensors that we use here at CEEJH, talking about how they function and a little bit of the reason why we're doing what we do. All right. Let's see here. Okay, so today, the first thing that we're going to do is just reflect on the need for hyperlocal air quality monitoring, and I'll kind of break that down on what that means. And then the next thing that we'll talk about is mobile versus stationary monitoring, because we have two different types of monitors that we use here at CEEJH. And then we'll do a little bit of demonstration of some of the monitors that we use as far as reading the data and looking at their cloud map. And then we'll just have a short, brief session for you guys to ask any questions that you may have, and then we'll answer them for you, all right? Okay, so let's talk first about regulatory monitors and what they're actually doing. So under the Clean Air Act, we are mandated, if you will, to monitor these 6 criteria pollutants that you can see here. I guess I'm reflecting a little bit. Let me move over here. So you'll get particulate matter, you have carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, lead, O2, and sulfur dioxide. And all of these things come from different pollutant sources that you can see in that picture on the right-hand side of the screen, whether it's wildfires, factories, our vehicles that we use, agriculture, and shipping. So what we are doing is trying to measure the levels of these different pollutants to be able to justify change in our policy, So let's move a little bit forward here. We can get a little bit more detailed. So as you can see here, there is a list of what we call the air quality index. We all know that green is good, generally. We associate green with good. And as you move down the list down to maroon, you have higher levels of particulate matter at 300 micrograms per meter squared. And those levels are associated with lower levels of overall health based off of prolonged exposure. For this particular situation, being exposed to high levels of PM or other criteria pollutants for a short period of time doesn't necessarily show the effects that we see, unfortunately, in our communities. This is something that happens over a prolonged period of time. So that's just something to note as we kind of move forward through this right here. Okay, so you may wonder, well, why is it important for us to put these monitors up? If you get on your weather app or if you just look up air quality, you'll be able to get a reading based off of where you are. But unfortunately, the issue that we've seen is that the government monitors are not placed in enough frequency. They're not granular enough with their data for us to be able to really tell what's going on in specific communities. And so that's where we come in at CEEJH and other groups that we partner with to be able to make that data more specific to where we're actually living and having our being, as opposed to where our different government agencies have decided to place monitors. An example of this is on the right-hand side of my screen. You'll see 4 different districts. 2 of them are in the San Francisco area and the other 2 are in the Oakland area. This is a separate study than what we've done here at CEEJH, but it shows the same rationale. So what we're able to see is that there are block level differences in PM levels exceeding 400%. Like I said, this was from an external study. But what you can see in that first column, it's fairly clear. That's San Francisco still. But if you move just to another district, you'll see that it's heavily populated with pollutants. Similar to the 2 on the far right, where you have West Oakland and East Oakland, you'll see significant disparities. So for one to say that one city has a certain level of air quality, it's just not accurate, because it really depends on where you are in the city, what pollutants that you're next to, depending on where you are. And those things, a lot of times people can't control because they're done by industry, businesses, and what have you, or just long-standing situations that are already there before we have a chance to move in. Okay. So what does this mean? So what we have learned is that polluting facilities follow what we call the path of least resistance, meaning that they try their best to place their pollutant sources in communities where there is either no infrastructure or little infrastructure as far as incorporation of the towns. A lot of times you'll see facilities in areas where the town is unincorporated, so there's no town council, there's no one to have a vote, there's no one to say, hey, no, this isn't what we need, there's no review board, and essentially they're able to kind of buy land and move in. And so actually what you see here in this picture to the right is an example of that. You know, you've got a community that has a playground. I have 2 kids myself, so I'm very sensitive to this, but right in the background you see pollutants coming from a factor. And if you think that those pollutants aren't affecting that town and the people within a radius of that town, then it's just not accurate. And also another thing that I have mentioned here is that the hearings that are mandated for, you know, different things to happen, of course, they tend to happen during business hours, you know, and if you work a 9 to 5 and you got to go pick up your kids or handle some business right after work, you know, you're not available sometimes until the evening time, 7, 8 o'clock at night. I think we can all relate to that. And of course, if you're busy, then there's no way that you can be there to actually voice your opinion, concerns, and anything that may be affecting you from the local pollutant sources that do exist. Okay. So what can we do about this problem? One of the steps that we've taken here at CEEJH is investigating a number of different air quality monitors that monitor different pollutant factors out of the 6 that I was talking about a little bit earlier. Ranging from what we like to call low cost, from about $200 to $7,000, in comparison to the government monitors, which range from about $20,000 plus. Which of course is not something that's an everyday cost for general folks, but it is something that is significantly less than the government monitors that are available. And because they're a little bit less in cost, we're able to purchase more and then disperse them at a greater surface area throughout the region to be able to get, like I was saying earlier, more granular, more focused, and more accurate data based off of specific communities as opposed to general populations. All right, and then also what you can see, which we will show you a little bit of an example of, is a crowd map at the bottom right. That's an example of one of our PurpleAir monitors where you can see multiple data points. And even if you look at those data points, some of those that are close together have different numbers. Those are the air quality index based for PM 2.5. But what we're able to see is that even in those areas, you see block-to-block differences at times. So that's just something to be able to see, because if you were to look at the like our weather app or any type of air quality, government air quality information source, you would see that it would give you one single number for a whole city. Whereas if you opened up like Baltimore City, you'll see a difference in air quality between west and east or north and south. Same in DC. And so that's the reason why these increase in local air quality monitors is so important, because it gives us the real data. Yeah. Okay, so now we'll talk a little bit about some of the monitors that we do have. At CEEJH, we use stationary monitors, and we also have mobile monitors, which Vivek is kind of holding up here. You'll see that these 2 here are, and I'll go a little bit more in detail in just a second, but these are our mobile monitors, so they're something that you can either like wear on your person or carry around with you. And then the other 2 on the table here to my left, your right, are our stationary monitors that we brought in today for you to be able to see. One of those is the PurpleAir monitor, and the one that Vivek is opening is our black carbon C-12 monitor from MetOne. Okay. So let's talk about the personal monitor. So that's kind of what we were just talking about here. They're portable and they're handheld. They're a lot lower in cost. Yeah, and we can pass them around if you all would like to see them throughout the presentation. But what it does is that it allows the user to be able to walk through different areas. It gives an even more accurate reading of what one single person may experience. What type of air are they breathing in if you're a commuter that walks to work and you live in DC, what is it like for you to walk the 5 blocks to your office building? Or what is it like for you to stand at the bus stop for 20 minutes to catch your ride? You know, or if you're a student at University of Maryland and you have one of these on, what is it like for the air quality from one side of campus to the other? What are you experiencing? You know, because it gives us an example of all of the other people who may not have a monitor but take your same route. What are they breathing as well? So that's real-time data that's on the ground. And we've got some monitors going around, the handheld ones that you guys can take a look at and kind of figure out. But they're really lightweight. They're usually battery operated. You kind of just switch them on, and then they have a cloud map you can read the information to. Yeah, you can just attach them to your lanyard and walk around with them. Any question? No. Yeah. You can go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, you go ahead.
So the one that looks like that little Snapchat logo, I don't know if some of us.
Yeah.
The little ghost, sorry, the ghost.
Yes.
This measures particulate matter, yes. And it's color coded as well.
Come to the mic.
Was that?
The mic so that YouTube can.
Oh, yeah. All right, for those online, the question was, what do these low-cost mobile monitors that are going around measure? And the answer is the one that's going around that's a little shaped like a ghost. I don't know if folks online can see, but that measures particulate matter as well. But the perks of this compared to the PurpleAir, which I think Claire will talk about shortly, is you can just carry this around your neck. You can wear it on your lanyard. You can just hold it, and you can walk up and down the street. And this gets into what's known as environmental storytelling. So, a day in the life. When I'm walking to work, when I'm dropping my kids off, what are they exposed to? At the bus stop. It's better at covering more distance, covering more ground, and you don't need a power source to plug it in. You can just take it with you. Just turn it on. It's like a phone. It's literally like a phone. And then the other one, the ATMOTube. Is it PM? Is it also VOCs or no?
Yeah, VOCs.
It also measures volatile organic compounds, or VOCs. Yes, ma'am. Oh.
So the little one with the strap, with the leather strap, that picks up volatile organic compounds.
So,
Okay, so my question is, what if you're wearing perfume or lotions, fingernail polish, or anything like that, or hand sanitizer even? Will that pick it up, and will it identify what that compound?
Yep. So the question for those online is if you have sort of noise in the sense of if you're wearing perfume, cologne, or if you have hand sanitizer, will the sensor pick that up? And the question is, the answer is because these are lower cost, they are sensitive to these factors. And this only measures total volatile organic compounds. It doesn't differentiate between, benzene, toluene, and individual pollutants. So that's kind of one of the limitations of a low-cost sensor like this. But there are more expensive models that do pick up on the individual. So you can rule out this noise. So that's something to consider when going out into the field. Yes, ma'am. Oh.
The Atmotube. So we're using them in the community.
Newark, yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But also, I'm a port organizer, and I want the workers to wear. So once they leave, should they turn them off? Leave the job? Should they turn them off or wear them when they go home? Because they're not. Some of them aren't in communities that's impacted.
Right. So the question is, for those in the workplace, if we're trying to get at occupational health, occupational safety, should the workers take the Atmotubes or the mobile sensors off or turn them off when they leave? And I think it depends on what kind of question you have. Like if you're solely looking at, at the workplace, then you can have them turn it off and just get the values from 9 to 5 because there are 8-hour standards that OSHA has set forth. Yes.
My question is, who manufactures them and how do they get them prototyped?
Yes. So the question is who manufactures these monitors and how do they get them prototyped? I'm assuming that means like validated. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So there is they do field assessments. So the South Coast Air Quality Monitoring Network, I think it's SQMD. They have a whole repository on the co-locations protocols, the R-scores, a lot of statistics that go into it. But for the manufacturers, for the Atmotube, it's ATMOTECH, and then for the Airbeam, it's AirCasting, habitat map. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, we'll take one more, and then I think we'll proceed. Yep. Yes, ma'am. Oh. Yeah, we can pick one more.
You had a picture with the facility next to the playground.
I'm just going to remove this.
Yes. So once you find out that the chemicals or fumes that's coming out of that plant is toxic and it's near homes and playgrounds does it help the facilities, or it doesn't help anybody, it just acknowledges that people are here?
It's a great question. So the question is, now that we see that there are facilities such as what we see on the screen, polluting these communities, polluting our children, what can we do about it, right? Like, what is the next step? Are we just revealing what we already know, or can we use it for action? And at CEEJH, one of our key principles is actions-oriented science. So I'll give a quick example of what I'm doing currently in Cheverly, Maryland. We've noted that there are facilities like a scrapyard, such as a concrete block plant and warehouse distribution centers that contribute plumes such as this. And we've gotten data, but we've also used that data to work with our state agencies, like the Maryland Department of the Environment, to say, hey, I saw that. There's pros and cons there, but they have issued notices of violations to some of the facilities, and in fact, some of the facilities saw this and said, hey, we can't use this path of least resistance anymore. And so they've cleaned up their practices, at least in Cheverly. So that's one step in the right direction. And additional facilities that want to place their sites on the same road were actually denied access, such as, I think there was the DC circulator in Cheverly. That was a big example. There's another concrete block plant that wants to enter the same street where this our scrapyard's at, and that is currently under debate as well. So, and I know we're working with the DC coalition, so air pollution doesn't have bounds. It's not just like, okay, DC and then PG County, and there's like a gap. It's gonna affect, there's regional effects too. There's meteorological effects. How do the wind patterns factor in, right? So so those are just some examples. I don't wanna take over your presentation, so I'm gonna stop right there. Hopefully that answered your question, and anyone that's online, please, just type in the chat, and then hopefully, we can get those questions streamed. Okay, projected over here. So I'm gonna pass it back to Clay. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivek. That pretty much covers what we have as far as our mobile monitors, but we also have stationary monitors that we use at CEEJH. Some examples are listed right here on the slide. That one on the tripod to the left is actually this C-12 closed up in its full state. The next one to the top right is the PurpleAir monitor, which we can actually pass around. We have two different types. The first one is our SD one, and the other one is our PurpleAir Flex. The difference between the two is that they both do PM1 to 2.5 and also PM10, but the Flex monitor also does total VOCs. So that's the only difference. Now these are, and the third one is also our QuantAQ MODULAIR, which is a little bit more expensive, but it also does PM and temperature and humidity.
And it does NOx as well.
Yeah, and NOx
carbon
sensors,
dioxide.
carbon dioxide. Yes.
Does it matter where you put these? Like,
Yes.
the vertical height or in direct alignment with the sun?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
So the question was, does it matter where we place the stationary monitors? And the answer is yes. And I'm going to get into that a little bit. Actually, my area of expertise when it comes to these monitors is actually doing the installs. If any of you ever had an install done, you probably saw my face. But yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that. So for the PurpleAir specifically, the first thing that you need is a stable Wi-Fi connection, because the data is sent out to that crowd map. And then the second thing that you need is an outdoor power supply, whether it's directly an outlet that's outside, or you can run an extension cord. I've gotten creative with it. We even worked with some iterations of solar power, which hopefully we can maybe get out this year. And then the last step is just zip tying it or using one single screw into something that's stable. So either a drain spout, if you've got a brick house or a church like we've had some installations at, if you just take a drill bit and make a little hole and put an anchor in there, you can get it done. Just a little bit of handiwork. The easier way is a zip tie, but it just has to be the right situation. The good thing about these PurpleAir monitors, though, is that they're weatherproof, so they can withstand the rain, the snow, the hail, everything like that. As long as they're secure to what they've been attached to, then they tend to keep going. And then the only other thing that can happen is that, God forbid, a squirrel or an animal or somebody comes by and unplugs it, then it'll go down. But those are really the only challenges that we have after getting them co-located, which is another process that we do. For about 2 weeks, we'll take these monitors out, usually maybe 10 to 20 at a time. and allow them to sit next to our government monitors that either read PM1, 2.5, or 10, and let them sit for 2 weeks and just compare the data to make sure that they're reading correctly before we deploy them out into the community. Keeps us with the correct standards, so that way everything is on point and accurate with what we need to read. Yes?
What's the standard time to keep these
Okay.
so that you can evaluate the data and
Sure.
create your story?
Sure. So the question was to those online was how long do these monitors need to be in place? So generally we try to keep them in place for about a year. The rationale behind that is to be able to get all 4 seasons worth of data. We tend to have different patterns of like heating and cooling. Travel patterns are different, of course. If it snows, people aren't going to be on the road as much. Same way when we get our rain season. So we want to be able to get a good picture, a clear picture of what's going on, especially considering the fact that we are trying to kind of zoom in on specific communities as opposed to general cities or regions. Okay.
And you can also have them.
Yeah.
You could also have them for like short-term acute studies, like panel studies, for example. You know, when you're looking at measuring folks, say blood oxygen saturation using pulse oximeters and having like maybe 3 weeks worth of data and being able to do something more short-term. So it depends on the research study again. But in general, yeah, if we just want to get like preliminary data, I would say 1 year. But the life expectancy of the PurpleAirs, because they are low cost, is about 2 to 3 years. So you would want to replace it after that, and then try to gauge, you know, long-term policies like impact assessments. So, yes, sir.
As far as the PurpleAir monitors, are those mounts, do they come with that, or that's something
Yes.
you guys added?
Yeah.
This comes with it. Yep.
Yeah, so the question online was, do the PurpleAir monitors come with mounts? And yes, they do. They come with mounts and zip ties and one little screw. And then it just all depends on, you know, which situation that you're trying to apply it to. And you kind of just make a decision once you kind of do a site assessment. Yeah. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
You're the one that, is there an office full of people that takes the PurpleAir monitors to the locations and mount them? And is there a team that monitors the maintenance, like if one goes out and it shows up online?
Okay.
Is there someone that will contact the host?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Oh, so the question for everyone online was: Is there a maintenance team that monitors these? Generally, like I was saying, if I install it, I'm the guy that's coming out to work on it. Every now and then we have some interns, and Vivek, he helps out when he can, you know, to just take a look at the monitor or convey the message to me that we need to schedule a maintenance visit. But generally, as far as maintenance is concerned with these monitors in particular, it's just as long as they're plugged in, they tend to run. They're pretty reliable, and then like Vivek said, after about 2 or 3 years, you want to go ahead and switch them out just for accuracy's sake.
We have a script that automatically generates if sensors and flags when sensors are offline for a couple of days.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
then we immediately alert our team. Our intern will alert us, and then we'll plan a day to come out based
Yeah.
on your convenience.
Yep. So it's really just depending on the availability of the host, and we'll work something out
If
that
you
way.
allow us to stop by when you're not home, because sometimes folks want to be there to observe
Yeah,
it, even
that
if it's
too.
on the outside of their home.
That too, which is understandable. So we're flexible, but we definitely are available to come out for maintenance. I think we had another 2 questions. Go ahead.
Thank you for this presentation.
Sure.
Interesting. So I'm working with a community that doesn't really know where their air quality problems are coming from. They're
Okay.
not- And they don't have a factory nearby. They've got some highways. They actually suspect that a lot of the asthma issues and the pollution that they sense with their bodies
Mhm.
is coming from like building demolition. It's a neighborhood with a lot of abandoned buildings.
Definitely.
Fall down, some of them are brought down with improper procedures. And so I'm curious, one, if, which kind of monitors might take that up? Would that kind of fall into the PM?
Yes.
The actually larger particles?
PM10.
Yeah, PM10 for sure.
Like how would you decide like how frequently or how to distribute them kind of geographically within a community where you're not quite sure where most of the pollution is coming from?
Sure. Yeah. So the question for those online is, how would we, if I'm reciting correctly, how would we decide how to place each monitor for a particular community that is unsure of their pollutant source? And what I would say is this. Generally, depending on the size of the community, I would put a monitor within at least 1,000, 2,000 feet of whichever source you may think it is. So if there is a home or a business or someone who can sign a host agreement for us, you know, and it's feasible, I would recommend putting a monitor there, and then maybe, you know, a block or two down, depending on the geography of the location, maybe another 2 or 3. An example of this is what we have done in Cheverly. Another example is what we've done in Turner Station, which is one of the places that we've done some of this work to be able to kind of see what's, once again, going on specifically in that community. And then what I would recommend is, because the PurpleAir monitors run 24/7, is to be able to look at the difference between when you have workers on site and when you don't. If you're talking about the highway that you said that was close by, I would look at the data from rush hour, you know, in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening time, versus at nighttime when everyone's asleep or in the middle of the day. And so that would kind of give us an idea if we were setting up for a community of that nature. Yes. And if I can
And
add something.
also, you know, think of the vulnerable sites too. So like parks, parks to see, because parks are carbon sinks, so they actually absorb or reduce the air pollution. And then comparing that to maybe like childcare centers, like we've done, I believe in Newark, early learning center, and then senior homes, schools, hospitals.
Places of
So
convergence.
again, what we're seeing in Newark, and we had a great session on that yesterday. So recommend looking at that presentation too. So, and then obviously residences, because that's where people, you know, come back from work, and possibly commercial venues. So it starts out at a convenience scale, and then once you build a network, you can begin to pick those locations. Yes.
One quick question.
Yes.
What's the difference between 1.0, 2.5, 10?
Yeah.
What's that?
So PM10, that refers to larger particles like dust, pollen, mold, and allergens. It affects those, like myself, who have asthma. So it's more harmful in lower quantities. And that's why the EPA has a standard for PM10 as well as PM2.5, because what you saw in the AQI, it's fine, we don't have to go back. The AQI, green is good air, right? Yellow is what the EPA considers to be moderate, but it affects vulnerable populations, but it's still under the legal limits. Now, where the discrepancy exists is between the EPA standard and the WHO's guidelines, which are more protective of human health. So that's where we kind of have a discrepancy. PM2.5 is smaller. It can enter your lungs and bloodstream, and it has more of the cardiopulmonary endpoints like stroke, heart disease, early onset asthma as well, COPD. And then PM1 is even smaller, but there's no standard associated with that because it hasn't been studied as extensively in the literature. So that's why we're trying to look at PM1. The problem is in Maryland, we don't have a way to calibrate our sensors because none of the sensors in Maryland that MDE operates measure PM1. They have they measure the count but not the concentration. Right. So we can't calibrate these instruments yet.
Yeah, that was something we ran into with calculations.
Calculations.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
that's something that's really important. How do we measure PM1? How do we make sure that it's accurate? So yeah, I'll stop there. And then after I'll...
Yeah.
Back to the PM10.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
It's like, that's the first time I'm actually hearing that, right? 'Cause I think
Fugitive
so far
dust,
I'm
yeah.
always hearing 2.5. 2.5 is kind of like that measure. Like, I don't know if is that the state measurement, is that a government measurement? Do we keep hearing that? But there's other particles that's more dangerous than that.
Right.
And I wonder why we don't hear about 2.5 or 1.0.
You said we don't hear about 2.5 or?
I'm saying we always
PM10.
hear about 2.5.
Yeah.
Everything is 2.5. 2.5 is like,
Okay.
you know, if we don't know, we don't understand the science behind, you know, pollution,
Yes.
you know, matters. It's like we look at it, we always hear 2.5, but very seldom am I hearing 10
Yep.
or 1.1. So help us understand why that is, and is that something that we definitely need to focus more on too, because it's not being talked about, but
Yes.
it's also being more harmful.
Yeah, definitely something we experience.
Yes. So the question for those online is, we keep hearing about PM 2.5, but there's not much conversation about PM10 or PM1. And my answer to that is we have a readily available correction factor for PM 2.5 that the EPA has created. So it's been validated. So we're able to use these instruments and say, these are your true readings. We don't have that yet for PM10 or PM1. We don't have instruments that are heavily calibrated to measure those parameters. So we can't use that information and say, hey, this is what the community is exposed to, because the EPA or the state government might say, well, the sensor might not be working. as well. Additionally, PM 2.5 has been linked to be one of the strongest indicators of combustion-related health impacts. So it's the best indicator in the literature right now. But emergent research has shown that black carbon is right up there. So that's why we have this monitor. But there's no standard for black carbon yet because it's new. And it's like by the time the literature is up there, by the time we have a standard, like how many lives are going to be lost? We've seen that with PM 2.5. The standard has been going down over time. But so in the past, in like 1990, we've said, okay, it's okay for people to be exposed to PM 2.5 levels that are double what the standard is now. And we've lost, maybe hundreds of thousands of lives because of that. So we're trying to stay ahead of the curve, and we're trying to push for a standard for black carbon. And I'll talk about that in my slides. So I don't want to be too. Hopefully this helped. I mean, it is very what's the word? Complex and frustrating because yeah.
Yeah, so with these,
Yeah, again.
thank you, Pat. Thank you.
And then I think there were some other questions.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Where can you purchase them and how much do they cost?
Okay, so the question was, where can you purchase the PurpleAir monitors?
Yes.
Okay, so anyone can go to the PurpleAir website. If you go to purpleair.com right now, they have a list of monitors both for indoor and outdoor air quality. So they are available for purchase. They range about $250 nowadays. So depending on which one you get and the different attachments. But yeah, so generally about $200. You can get yourself one if you'd like. Or you can reach out to us and maybe we may be able to get one at your residence or business or place of community. Yeah.
In the Mid-Atlantic.
Yeah, within the Mid-Atlantic region, yeah, for sure.
And then for the black carbon monitors, they're manufactured by MetOne.
Yeah,
They were originally $3,400 a piece, but now they've doubled their cost. So we can't deploy them in bulk like we can the PurpleAirs, but we are looking at alternatives. One name I want to throw out there is Clarity. They do have a node that does measure black carbon, I believe, and our partners at Johns Hopkins are currently evaluating that, I think, as we speak. So, yeah. So I think that's. Any other quick questions before we continue on with the slide deck? Okay, I'll let you.
Yeah, all right, so I'll just go a little bit into what it takes to get set up with the monitor. So in the last slide, I'll just bring it up real quick. I talked about how you have to have a stable, strong Wi-Fi connection that reaches out to the point of the installation. You also have to have a power supply as well as some type of outlet, or you can run an extension cord from inside, whichever works depending on the application. And then either a zip tie or a screw to kind of fasten it into place. So once you've done that, then you just pull up the PurpleAir on your phone or on your computer. It'll say PurpleAir and then the last 4 digits of the serial number. Once you click on that, you can connect it to your local Wi-Fi source. It has to be a Wi-Fi that has a password on it. That's one thing that I've learned in the field the hard way. And once you connect that, then the PurpleAir itself will start broadcasting, but you also have to go through a secondary step, which I think is here, where you just fill in the device's information, your email address, whether it's installed indoor or outside, and then you name the device. Usually, for instance, like with what I've done in with our partnership with the AME Church, if it's whatever the name of the church is, AME Church, and then that will be the name of that particular monitor at that particular location. And it also geolocates, so that way it'll give you the latitude and longitude of wherever you've located it. And then once you've done that, you scroll down and hit register, and then your device is up and running. So from that point until the point of it being taken down, it is reading 24/7, 365. And once it has had the opportunity to go along that path for a little bit of time, then you'll be able to download the data and be able to look at 10-minute averages, 1-hour averages, daily averages, and those types of things. So So the first thing, I kind of mentioned this a few minutes ago, but the first thing that we do before we actually take these monitors out and go through that registration process is a co-location process where we take the monitors and we let them sit for 2 weeks next to our government monitors. What you can see in that top right-hand corner is another one of our monitors, but the site is actually our Beltsville site that we have a partnership with Maryland Department of Environment, where we go out and, like I said, we'll leave the monitors for about 2 weeks in time just to make sure that they're running correctly and that the data is reading the same as the monitors from the government, so we can have an accurate reading. And so then that second step is just the redeployment. And we actually do the same thing with our black carbon monitors. And as you can see on the bottom right-hand corner, so I know it's a little small, but that's actually one of our C-12 monitors that's installed and operating today. Yep.
Those are just some of the factors you had asked about. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter where you install it. So
Right.
Something to note.
Right, so thanks for bringing that up, Vivek. So specifically with the PurpleAirs, they're pretty good, but what I try to avoid with the installation and what's recommended is to keep them away from like HVAC sources. So you wouldn't want to install it next to your heater or your AC unit. Another place that I wouldn't like to put them would be if, like say for instance, I was installing at a church. Most churches have a kitchen, for after service. So you wouldn't want to put it by that kitchen exhaust because it would throw off the readings. What you want to do is try to put the monitors in a situation where most people would be walking. We would get a good reading of the type of air quality that most people, come into church service, or they come to Bible study on Wednesday or Tuesday night, or even just people walking in the neighborhood, because our churches, our schools, all these institutions are in our neighborhoods. These are places where people are going to convene, they're going to walk past, they're going to drive by. So these are our more representative places to be able to get this data. Okay. And then I think if we can queue up that link that we had earlier, and you guys can get a chance to look at the crowd map. I won't get a chance to click around, but you'll at least get a chance to see it, and for those online, and then I can take some questions. Yeah?
Yesterday I heard in a different session
Mhm.
that there's a loan program for some of these monitors.
CEEJH.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that, or do you all offer?
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically what you would be able to do is we have our information at the end of the slides, and you can take our email, shoot us an email, and then once we kind of break down from symposium everything, we'll look back and see what we can do. It's really just about what we can do as far as our capacity and what you have available and are willing to work, but we can work all those things out and figure out which monitors we can bring out to you and what we're looking for.
Yeah, what you see here, we're missing the MODULAIR, which is the multi-pollutant one, which I really love.
Yeah,
My
that
favorite
one is
measures everything.
co-locating
But
right now.
Everything here is available to the community on a loaner program.
Yeah.
So black carbon, particulate matter, nitrogen oxides, carbon dioxide, VOCs, etc.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, they are. Yep.
Both of them.
Both of them.
Yeah, both of them. That's why I was saying, if you reach out to us and kind of explain to us, what you're looking for or what you'd like to study, then we can figure out based on our inventory and availability what we can do to help address those needs, and then we can come up with a plan. For those online, the question was, is there a loaner program available for our air quality monitors at CEEJH? And the answer is yes. Okay. All right, any other questions?
Could we
Right
get
now?
the other link up?
Yeah.
This is the other monitor. The other one, the one with the dots.
Yeah, the one with the dots. What's up?
You mentioned before there was a difference between particular matter count versus concentration.
Yes.
Wonder if you can explain.
That's not my alley.
Yeah.
He's a physicist by trade.
Yeah. I'm sorry, what was the second?
Or like how the difference in like the data in the two affects the health.
Okay, so the question for those online was, what is the difference between count and concentration? And then the second part was,
How the reading on either
Uh-huh.
affects your health, like which one is more important when it comes to like.
okay, so the other part of the question was which PM 1, 2.5, or 10 affects your health or has a greater impact?
Like is a higher count versus a higher concentration
Okay.
impacts the health more.
Okay, so basically the question, to reiterate for those online, was does the concentration or the count being higher or lower affect health, and in which way? So what I've noticed from the calculations is that the concentration and the count are proportional, but they're not the same. So what I mean by that is that as one increases, so does the other. And as one decreases, so does the other. And so because of that logic, one can say that you have an increase in particulates, whether it's from PM1 to PM10. And so the higher the concentration is similar to what we saw in the index, the more likely you are to have effects from prolonged exposure that are negative. Yeah, and so that's really what it comes down to, because these pollutants, they're not necessarily something that you can just visualize or just, smell or taste and know that they're there. By the time that you do, they're already at extreme levels. If you remember last summer, I believe when we had those wildfires that were coming down from the north, that's something that we can interpret and we can see. This PurpleAir map that we have up right now, you would be able to see all maroon and dark red colors during that type of situation. I spoke with some of our partners at MDE a few months after that situation, and their government monitors, they have filters that they use to keep those running, and the filters were overwhelmed. The numbers were off the charts. And so to address the question there, basically you would talk about a situation where the count and the concentration were extremely high. So I hope that answers the question. All right. And then, Vivek, you want to break down the,
And so when it's
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
just from my personal
Sure.
knowledge, we should not be outdoors.
I would not recommend it unless you absolutely have to. And there are, of course, other ways that you can filter your air indoors. You can look at different filters depending on what their count is. There's a lot of information when it comes to filters, but that's indoor air quality. Yeah, the HEPA filters are better, but there are levels to it. So the ones that have the highest count of being able to collect particulates, I would recommend those for your home. Yeah, but outdoors, it's hard to filter outdoor air.
All right. I guess we'll take one final question, then I'm going to... Oh, was there one from the chat? Okay. We'll take this, and then we'll circle back,
So, someone from the chat asked, if the community placed PurpleAir monitor doesn't match with the co-located gov monitor, what do you do?
So we, not discard, but we take the sensors that are co-located that aren't performing well back to our lab and see if there's an issue, and we can get them replaced.
Yeah.
So we only redeploy the ones that have an R. So I don't want to get too much into stats here, but we produce what's known as an R squared and RMSE, which is a root mean squared error. And if the values meet a threshold, then we redeploy them because they meet what the EPA has listed out in their air sensors toolkit. So we're listening to what EPA is saying to make sure that we're able to regulate our air. So, yep. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and get into our C-12 black carbon monitor. So, yeah. Yep. All right, so this monitor is a little bit more difficult to pass around. It's heavier, but Clay, I don't know if you want to kind of hold it this way, transpose it, but it is relatively portable. So all you need is a power source, and it measures black carbon. So it uses a special tape, as you can see inside a glass filter tape, which is where the black carbon deposits. And Clay, if you were to turn on the device really quickly, we can kind of get it running. But next slide, please. Oh, sorry, clicker. I'll do the clicker. Yeah, you can get this. So all you need to do when you get the device, you load it out of the box. You insert the tube onto the top, as we've already had, and then you plug it in. So very simple. And then you load the filter tape like we've already done so that it is pulled over from the left side to the right side. So Clay's going to turn it over, and you can see the green light. Sorry. If folks want to come a little closer, if they're interested, then they can take a little look. I know, it's hard with both the online and virtual. Okay, will it all instruments now. Can they see it online? Can folks online see the instrument, at least part of it, the layout? Okay. Another online question? Okay. What was the question?
The question is, the person said that they would love to know what percentage of sensors initially located had issues and had to be returned.
Not too many. I would say when we do a batch of co-location, which is about 10 to 12 sensors, I would say maybe 1 or 2 maximum. Most times we go relatively issue-free. So, yeah, I would say 90% of the time, 95% of the time, we're good. So, yeah, this...
I appreciate you all showing us like how to
get started,
and
yeah.
everything.
Absolutely.
But that is something that you would do when you're
Yes.
out
Absolutely.
installed.
Absolutely.
Okay.
This,
Yeah,
so
that would be covered by us.
the question is, would the setup process be covered by the University of Maryland? And The answer is yes, but if you want to purchase these instruments on your own, you can do so through the website. You can get a quote. This is just a list of directions on how to do that, so that folks that want to maybe start their own hyperlocal program or have funds to do so, or just want to get one for their own benefit, can get started. So I just have the directions on the screen, but this is the general layout of the device. It also comes with a solar radiation shield, so it's also weatherproof like the PurpleAir. It can withstand the elements, and it doesn't even require Wi-Fi because it has that little cellular service built in. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now, when you all loan these carbon monitors,
Mhm.
the black carbon monitors, are they new? And you just said that they don't break or they don't go offline, but what if they do? And then do you replace it with another one?
Yes.
And is there a warranty period? Do you get the old one back? And what if the old one keeps going offline or having a malfunction?
Yes.
And then when it malfunctions, does it alter the readings that you get from the tape?
Okay. And for online, the question was for you talking about for the C-12 specifically, right, ma'am? Okay, yeah. So for the black carbon C-12, the question was, what is the process for maintaining them or replacing them when they're not reading correctly or when they go down? So for the C-12 specifically, we have noticed that they are a little bit more complex as far as functioning correctly, but we do stay on top of it. They have a crowd map similar to PurpleAir, which I think we have an example in just a second here queued up for you. But what they're able to do is they show us in real time as well. Because this particular monitor has its own network, we can almost see immediately once we plug it in and set it up if it's functioning correctly. Because we do a check to see if the GPS is correct. Like, is it telling me that I'm in College Park when I plug it in and turn it on in College Park? And if it doesn't, then that's one indicator. There's also, I know it's a little bit harder to see, but maybe those online can see on the slides, but there's a series of LED lights that are there that give, is it the next slide? Got to clear it. But yeah, there we go. So as you see on this right here, it's a little bit closer up, but these series of lights will tell you different things about what's going on with the monitor. And then there's also a way to communicate with it directly via USB. And like I was saying earlier, there's the online crowd map. So it's a few factors that we check to make sure after co-location or even at co-location to make sure that they're running smoothly as far as a hardware standpoint is concerned. So that way we're making sure that they are running correctly. And after they are deployed, we just do a regular check. Each individual monitor has its own link. So specifically, instead of like how the PurpleAir monitor, you can just go to purpleair.com and then click the map and it'll show all of the PurpleAirs in the region. No, each one of these monitors individually has its own specific dedicated link. So if you click on that link, then it'll show you for that specific monitor what's going on, how long it's been reading, and all of that will come up. You'll get a chance to see a real example of one that we have out right now. But that's generally what we check, those multiple points of data to make sure that it's running correctly. And then if it's not, then we'll contact MetOne and kind of explain to them the situation, and they'll send us a new one, and we'll send back the old one that's not working.
Yep.
Yes, absolutely.
We scan them, I would say weekly, at least weekly.
Yeah.
And we have a response team, which is basically Clay,
Yeah,
myself, and
for sure, yeah.
a couple others on our team.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're growing though.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely, absolutely.
And then Clay mentioned a link that's private. So what we do is for each community,
Yeah, we share that.
we share the link to our community advisory board, so that only our community advisory board and the research team has access to it.
Right.
So we can then convert that into a map. Per
Yeah.
se.
And also, if this may be a question in you all's mind, as far as the PurpleAir is concerned, they have a public and a private option. So I've had instances where we've done installations at people's residences, their homes where they live at, and they may not necessarily want the PurpleAir world to know that they have one monitor at their home, which is fine. We have the ability to create it as a private link, and then so it would only be available to us to make sure that it's running, and to them to make sure see what's going on, particularly in their specific area. Yeah. And then we'll click to next. Yep.
So thanks, Clay. I think you kind of summed up what I have on the next slide here. So yeah, everyone is sent a private link, but we can accrue those links so that a community has access to the black carbon readings from the hyperlocal network. So that, I'm not going to reiterate what you've already mentioned. The research team has what's known as the Comet software. So we can pull data remotely for a certain period of time and access it that way as well. And then I think if we can pull up the other link that you had,
That first one you pulled up?
the first one you pulled up with the little lines,
Yeah, that looked.
and we had a question. Well, yes, ma'am.
For the black carbon sensors, it uses a tape.
Yes.
Does that have to be replaced?
Yes. So the question is the C-12 black carbon monitor uses a filter, a special filter tape, a glass fiber tape. So does it have to be replaced? The answer is yes. The frequency it depends on how polluted your area is. It's between 2 months to 1 year. So if there's more pollution, then we try to replace them every few months, but some of them have been working for upwards of a year, and those are the cleaner areas. So yeah.
So if it's running out pretty fast,
That means
That
that's an
indicates
indicator right there. But I mean, you can see, so this right here is one of our C-12s. Can we scroll down if possible? Just really quickly. I just want to see where it's geolocated. Let's go, scroll down, keep going. There we go. So where is this? This is at Beltsville, Maryland. So this is actually a very secluded, like heavily wooded, a lot of vegetation over here. So we anticipate there being low pollution levels. Can we scroll up again to the top? So you still see some peaks over here, which is really interesting. But majority of the time, you can see that the values for black carbon are close to, close to zero, which is really good. What we've seen is, so the threshold where we begin to see cognitive inhibition amongst children and respiratory distress, specifically amongst young women, so those were the cohorts, is 600 nanograms. 600 nanograms. So you do still see peaks here, and we've seen values in our EJ communities like Cheverly, Turner Station, Curtis Bay, upwards of 10,000. So peaks, though. These are peaks. These aren't averaged, but these are still peaks because you have the medical waste incinerator in Curtis Bay. You have CSX terminal. You have a lot of waste going there from universities sending their metal lab waste over there, and you have other environmental pathogens. So just an example. And this is only a 3-day snapshot, but our Comet software allows us to pull longer-term data, and we give that to the community as well. So we're trying to make our data transparent and consistent. Yes, ma'am.
so when you give it to the community, is it MDA, the energy
Department of the Environment. Yeah.
Oh, it goes to the Department of Environment?
No. We send them to the site that they own and operate. So we just collect the data from their reference monitor. It's the MAGI AEE33 athylometer. That's what the government uses. But anyway, I know I was just that's what their instrument. But they don't really use the link. We give this to the community.
But where does the data go once you get like a month's worth or 3 months worth?
Mhm.
Where does that data go to show that, yeah, this community is suffering from?
Oh yeah, we're sharing that. So we're actually on an ARP, American Rescue Plan grant with MDE. So we share all the data from Cheverly, Turner Station, and Curtis Bay, the communities I work with directly with MD and directly with their data analysts. So we've had presentations to MD. They've asked us questions like, hey, maybe you want to check this out, then I'll update my slides and then give it to them, and then they'll look at their action items accordingly. Policy change, hopefully NOVs, notices of violations, more targeted inspections, fugitive dust. What's that?
I'm asking because I know about all these situations and I'm just trying
Yeah.
to figure out, does it work? And when they get fined or get violations, do they fix them? Do they stay fixed? Or is
So-
it just a violation, they get fined and they keep?
So far, we've seen that in Chevrolet, it's been working, but in Curtis Bay, I think with the CSX terminal, and there's a huge fight going on, and it's been nationally recognized. I think there's been some progress, but I haven't been able to. Yeah, if you want to speak on the Curtis Bay side.
Yeah, so in Curtis Bay, we have a number of issues and challenges, but it has been something that has, like Vivek was saying, being raised on a more national level. The issue here is quite frankly, is that in order for us to be able to make change, we have to have tangible data, that is understandable by not just us as scientists, but the community, the lay people who, do other things other than science, right? And so once those things are understood and then we all kind of come together with tangible data, then we can leverage change. The goal of these hyperlocal studies, of this methodology that we stand up here talking about today, is to be able to put tangible data in the hands of the people who have the chance and the opportunity and are elected to make change. The numbers are undeniable, at least to myself and to those that we have a chance to talk to and share this information with. And so really what we are aiming to do is to continue to collect data in a very, very, very convincing and specific way. So therefore, when there are decisions made in Annapolis, when there are decisions made in DC, when there are decisions made in Virginia, because we have these monitors all over, that they are based off of actual fact and science as opposed to political gain. Because politics it just doesn't save lives. It preserves those who are already, in position. Yes, ma'am? No question.
I guess building on that, corporations are gonna corporation.
Absolutely.
Meaning, these networks have these networks of kind of more personal scale, small scale networks have been, air quality monitors have been out there for a few years.
Right.
Are corporations catching on and starting to challenge the use of that data?
Yeah.
And what do you need to do?
In West Virginia, they proposed a bill to basically disallow this type of data from being used for policy, and they want to put the onus essentially only on DEP, West Virginia DEP's air monitors.
Yeah.
The thought process behind it is it would be harder. It's more regulation for industry, essentially, and so that's essentially what you're saying. In a place that's very pro industry friendly like West Virginia, they don't want to empower people essentially to have this data.
Right. For those online, the question was, is there pushback from industry to essentially mitigate the effects of our data collection and others like us? And the answer to that question is a resounding yes, but we continue to push forward. Yeah.
And
Go ahead.
this was recently in the news. The National Association of Manufacturers, I believe, NAM, actually sued the EPA because they had reduced or made their PM 2.5 and standard stricter. So there is a.
Manufacturers Association in West Virginia was the one that pushed
They were
legislation.
okay.
So it's their lobbying group in West Virginia basically wants to disallow any type of citizen data. So it's a big issue.
And they also said it's not feasible to bring the standard or bring the levels down. They say that many zip codes in the United States would exceed it. So I think there are arguments being made, but human health is human health. Yes, sir.
A question. So can you kind of help me understand, help the audience and people who looking at this understand as far as how did you guys go about forming your group to actually do the monitoring, the type of training, and the fact that it seems that you have this partnership and support from the university. Talk about how does a community group, that's trying to kind of replicate some kind of air monitoring system or network, how do you help this? Because again, you guys have backgrounds in science and things of that nature, but your average person in the community may not have that background, but they want to do air monitoring just as a start to try to get, and you don't have a university in your backyard to support this kind of project. Can you understand what I'm saying? Can you kind of help us kind of differentiate how we can help that
I'll try.
process?
We'll talk about TikTok.
Okay, yeah, so the question for those online is how can a community, an organization, or just a regular citizen get involved a little bit more, and how does the process start to duplicate the same type of results? Okay, yeah. Yeah.
started it.
Yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
her community, right?
For sure.
But
So
I'm not gonna answer it, but what I will say.
you can go ahead. You can go ahead.
But what I will say is, it's about, public education, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's about the leaders in the community taking a stance on what's impacting them. If
Right.
things are hard in your community, and you have to be connected, right? Like,
Right.
folks have to be connected with institutions like you all. So how does that work if you don't have a Sabrina in your community? I
Right.
think that's what you're asking, right?
Well, I understand that part, but I'm saying more so in reference to this whole notion of like doing air monitoring.
Mhm.
You know, getting the air monitoring, understanding, like you're saying, the reading, the whole interpretation of, you know, your data.
Okay.
And then, internalizing that within, like you said, building network. It's like the whole process of what you guys have done, whether it's the location,
Right.
even talking about a host agreement.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? Like y'all read it and explain like what is a host agreement? How do you actually get your monitors also in these locations, these areas where you can be able to collect data? Because one of the challenges I know that we've had is just the fact that, like, you know, as far as closer to these industries, that, you know, they're, you know, telephone poles. So when you get these electric companies and they see these monitors on there, oh, these is the prime location, but, you know, it's hard to get those.
Got you.
You know, these type of agreements where they would allow us to be able to gather data.
Right.
I mean, it's like a holistic approach that goes into trying to, you know, like you said, do these types of studies
Mhm.
that just kind of figure out, like, you know, like how is it that, you know, we can kind of utilize that and kind of build on that, besides, like you said, relationships and things of that nature that also goes a part of that.
Absolutely.
But it's also just the holistic part of just being able to do a project.
Yeah. So from a holistic perspective, I can say that it is multifaceted. You know, it really just depends on how can I say this? A community or an organization or a group or anyone that is in need of monitoring. Generally, when we go into a community that is like for the first time getting monitoring, there is some type of concern. You have people who either have significant levels of upper respiratory issues, higher cancer rates. You'll have different polluting factors as far as like different industries or like the incinerator that Vivek was talking about. And so what we try to do is kind of, if you, for lack of a better term, kind of geolocate those types of areas. And then we'll go out and get into the community, try to see if there are any organizations within that community, from just a community advisory board. If it's an incorporated town, then we'll try to talk to the mayor, or if there's some type of representative that can speak for that community or is also in communication with the residents of that community where decisions are being made. Even something like an HOA. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. I know you're talking about outdoor monitoring
Uh-huh.
at this point, and I am very new to all of this.
Mhm.
I just want to ask a question because I do have a child with asthma,
Absolutely.
and I'm asking on a personal level, do you guys have any monitors just to monitor the inside of your apartment, your personal space?
Mhm. So, yeah, these personal monitors.
We also have the indoor version of the PurpleAir, so you can
Yeah.
just keep them plugged in inside in an outlet, maybe by the windowsill, you know, in
Yeah.
your room, in your office.
Yeah.
They'll collect
And-
passively for 24 hours, 24/7 as well.
Yeah. For those online, the question was there any type of indoor air quality monitoring? And the answer is yes. PurpleAir does offer indoor air quality monitors, and there are others that are available.
And how would I go about, I'm sorry.
Oh, for PurpleAir specifically, you can go to purpleair.com, and then when you pull it up, there's a tab that says sensors, and you click on that, and then the drop down will show you the indoor and outdoor air quality monitors.
And how would I, and that's the same way I will have a chance to order one to.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of just like Amazon or any other like online store. You could just go click add to cart, and then I think nowadays you might have to buy a power cord. They used to include them, but now they separated the price because it's just, as we've noticed in the world, unfortunately, even with these monitors, business comes into play, and that's part of the reason why it's not as easy to get these more expensive or detailed monitors out into the community, because they keep increasing the prices, whether it's for the unit itself or the components. Yeah. All right. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
I have a question, because a lot of people.
Yeah, we can talk more, sir.
Indoor, the air quality indoors is just as bad as outdoors.
Right.
So, do you all offer the indoor air monitors, and does the data,
Mm-hmm.
can you take that information to your child's doctor or to your doctor and say, this is the quality of the inside of my home, and this is why I'm sick?
Okay.
Will the doctors use that data?
So right now, we do not do indoor air quality monitoring. We don't have any of those in stock right now. I'm not sure if Dr. Wilson, is that something that he would want to initiate for us? But what I would recommend is looking into having filters in your home. Me personally, I have 3 HEPA filters in my home. I got one in my kids' room, one in my own room, and then one that I use for the house. And I notice the difference whenever they're full. So that's what I would recommend in the short term. But in the long term, I would do some more research into which in-home air quality monitors are available and what they read for. And then if you wanted to reach out to us, shoot us an email. We'll try to help, with the science or in between. And then what I would also recommend is that once you get that data and you kind of figure out what's going on inside of your house, then take it to your child's doctor and let them make a medical decision, because we aren't doctors, but we do know the research about what happens when you're exposed to these pollutants for a long period of time. Yeah.
And just one.
If you're interested in the indoor air quality, I know the Green and Healthy Homes Initiative
Okay.
is a really good organization that provides grants and other kinds of supports to help make people's homes healthier.
Absolutely. And we're out of time.
Yeah, just got
They're
one
based in
final.
Baltimore, but I think they are national.
They're part of, I'm part of the Region 3 TIC-TAC that does the Technical Assistance Center. GHHI is the regional partner for Region 3. And so they've got a big grant program rolling out for a lot of people in all of Region 3. So, but I think that's where they got to start.
It's the Thriving Communities grant that you
Yeah. Tribal Communities Technical Assistance Center.
Yep. I think the final thing is just making sure you have a good, well-rounded team. We have the Mid-Atlantic Environmental Justice Coalition, the Maryland chapter, DC has a chapter, Virginia has a chapter. So we have researchers like myself, but I tend to go into the jargon a little bit, but my job is to make sure that I'm giving you valuable and quality data, and I'm able to interpret it. And then we have environmental lawyers that are able to advocate and leverage that for change in a manner that they're subject matter experts, and of course the community, because it's your experiences, your eyes, your ears, you're telling us what you're observing, and we're able to put all this together. So hopefully, it's a team effort.
Yeah.
And that's all I had to add. So I want to just thank everybody for attending this session. We're out of time. I'll be available afterwards to talk, so feel free to connect with you all. We'll be here. Enjoy the lunchtime plenary as well, and downstairs. Yep. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all for coming.
Hey, thanks for that. I'm actually, before I did this, I worked out. I'm not with Dr. Barnes, but I've question. I just had some technical questions.